Welcome back, Wanderers. Great to see you. My name's Ellie. 2,000 years ago, long before Carl Jung was even a twinkle in his daddy's eye, the Gnostics described a world that was split between light and dark. The light illuminated, it opened all of the hidden doors, and it revealed knowledge. Knowledge that multiplies into choices, and the choices became the architecture of empowerment in Gnostic thought, each choice rippling into a shaping of the collective. Light, to the Gnostics, is freedom. Darkness, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite. It's a concealment, but it's also a form of protection. What's unseen becomes a mystery, and a mystery invites exploration. Darkness, though, only holds power when the light is absent, because as soon as light comes, it illuminates that darkness, and the darkness dissolves. The Gnostics, they knew that darkness was not the enemy. It was the threshold of transformation. In Gnosticism and in early Christianity, they were already decoding the psyche long before Carl Jung gave it a name, thousands of years before. Both the Gnostic teachings and the Bible, actually, are archetypal framings of the human condition. I've come to know this, among other things, of course, as well. I believe that there is a story that's being told that links to our cosmic origins, but also the parables that sit within Gnosticism and the Bible. I don't think they're meant to be taken literally. A lot of those individuals that you hear about that have the experiences that appear in Gnosticism or in the stories of the Bible, I believe that they are archetypal framings of that human condition. They tell a story collectively of lots of things. And to see how the Gnostics framed light and dark in particular, just in the same way that Carl Jung framed the conscious and the unconscious, is kind of fascinating. It means we need to step back 2,000 years into a world where hidden knowledge was the salvation for humanity, and where the shadow wasn't a curse, but it was kind of a doorway. Gnostic wisdom anticipated something like modern psychology. And today I'm going to show you how I know that this is true and why it matters for our growth as individuals, but also as a collective. So the concept of dualism is key to Gnostic thought, and this is this concept of light versus dark, or the light versus the darkness. The light is gnosis, this is knowledge, and the dark is the hidden knowledge. And when it's absent, because it's hidden, this is referred to as ignorance. But the darkness isn't evil, and ignorance isn't evil. It's part of the hidden part of the self, exactly in the same way that Carl Jung describes it. The Gospel of Mary describes 7 dark powers that the soul must ascend beyond in order to reach the state of gnosis. But the truth is that the darkness wasn't evil despite its evil-sounding names. It was the hidden aspects of the self. In Gnostic thought, Jesus was an actual man who had reached the state of gnosis. He had overcome those 7 dark forces by transcending them, and he had remained to play the role of guiding others through that same transformation. In Mary's Gospel, Jesus doesn't tell us to fight the powers of darkness. That is very explicit. In fact, he explains that when you try to fight those powers, you only make them stronger. Our role as humans is to reveal the darkness within ourselves, to name each of those dark powers as it becomes visible in the light, and in doing that, it will loosen its grip on us. That's not a battle. That means that the point of living is not to battle the darkness within, or the dark powers that control us and keep us caged. It's a revelation, which kind of then makes you think of that book of Revelation in an entirely different way. And that's where the Gnostic teachings converge with Carl Jung's philosophy of the human psyche. They map onto each other really, really, really tightly. The Gnostics say that salvation comes when you know the hidden, when you have that gaining of gnosis. And Carl Jung said that individuation comes from integrating the shadow, from getting to know that darkness within. Both of them are pointing to the same inner task of being able to reveal the darkness inside you. In the Gospel of Mary, the soul's journey isn't about battling external demons. It's about recognizing 7 internal forces that distract us from our own power. The darkness, the desire, the ignorance, the zeal for death, the kingdom of the flesh, which is all about things that have no real meaning but are there to distract us, and the foolish wisdom of the flesh, which is, intellectualism or debate, political argument, all of the things that sound very smart, but they are one-dimensionally smart. They aren't the same thing as knowledge, as that inner gnosis that we have. And then, of course, that 7th dark power, which is the wisdom of anger. And that translates to this state of outrage in which we feel justified and we feel righteous against something or someone else. These are not monsters. They're shadow aspects of the self. And Mary's message in the gospel is really clear. Those 7 dark powers will lose their grip when we name them and when we see them and when we stop feeding them with our fear. Carl Jung calls this shadow integration, not rejection, not suppression, but recognition. And that's the key. The Gnostics weren't preaching warfare. They were preaching revelation. They were preaching an illumination of the darkness. In the Gospel of Thomas in Gnosticism, Jesus also makes statements that are relevant to this. He says, if those who lead you say to you, see, the kingdom is in the sky, then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will become known, and you will realize that it is you who are the sons of the living Father. But if you will not know yourselves, you dwell in poverty, and it is you who are that poverty. And that's not a metaphor. What Jesus is talking about is he's talking about psychology. The shadow isn't out there. It's not somewhere else. It's not something that's going to pop out from behind, from under your bed or from outside of your wardrobe or something. It's in here. It's inside. And that's the reason why there is no real answer to the question of how can we fix other people? Because we can't fix other people. We can only fix ourselves. And to simplify this message even further, if we're still looking for ways to fix other people, then we must still have something to fix inside ourselves. That's the truth. The kingdom is within. And when we seek the truth from within the kingdom, we become troubled and astonished and then transformed. Those are the words that are written inside the Gospel of Thomas. That is also the arc of individuation. It's the arc of awakening. And in the secret Gospel of John, or the Apocryphon of John, as it's also known, we see the very same pattern. There's a parable of John having been shaken by a Pharisee who makes an accusation against Jesus. He says that Jesus is a liar. So John retreats to the mountain in order to kind of question everything that he knows and ask himself, could the Pharisee be right, or is Jesus the word of truth? And in that solitude, he receives a vision, a shape-shifting kind of figure that reminds him that the truth is incorruptible, regardless of what form it takes. It doesn't matter what the form is. It's always the same, because the truth is undeniable, it's universal, and it always will be. It's always inside us, always. In the Apocryphon of John, Jesus tells John that the source of all things is the one, and it's beyond our comprehension. It's not God, it's not a thing, it's just pure light. And light, as I've said before, when I was actually speaking about this Apocryphon of John in a previous episode, that light is the bridge between energy and mass. Very much like the E equals mc squared formula from Einstein's theory. It's a pure light between spirit and matter, energy and mass, between the unconscious and the conscious mind. So what do we do with this information? Well, I think the easy answer is we stop fighting the shadow. Instead, we reveal it, we name it, and we integrate it. Because the Gnostics weren't just mystics, they were actually really early psychologists. And Carl Jung wasn't just a scientist, he was a decoder of ancient truth. They kind of interlink when you think of them that way. They become almost like one, but from different times in our history. Both Gnosticism and Jungian philosophy are saying exactly the same thing, and that is that the path to freedom is through the hidden aspects of the self. I want to provide some practical takeaways before I go today, and they are really very simple things to do. I think they also make quite a profound difference considering the amount of input that you have to put in. Little things like keeping a journal of your thoughts, or writing down your dreams, or making notes about the way you find yourself projecting shadow aspects of yourself onto other people. Just keeping an honest record of the little things that raise query, like when you kind of go, oh, why did I say that? Or why did I dream that? That kind of thing. I have spent a lot of my life making sure that I have a way to remember my dreams. And you'd be amazed. I think, I talk about my dreams sometimes on this channel, and people are amazed by how much detail I can remember. It's practice, but you know how much I've learned about myself through my dream analysis. It's just incredible. Writing a journal, or even vlogging and blogging, the kinds of things that I do, they're really good ways of being able to understand what sits inside you, finding ways to express and contain, and when I mean contain, I mean record the honest aspect of who you really are. Because your shadow is not your enemy. It's your hidden teacher. That's where we learn from. If we don't look at the shadow, we never learn anything new about ourselves. And yes, when we shine a light on our shadow, it will be troubling, just as stated in the Gospel of Thomas. But then we will become astonished, which will lead to our transcendence. Those are the messages inside Gnosticism, and that's also the messages coming out of Jungian philosophy. Light reveals and the darkness conceals, but both of those are our teachers. And Carl Jung talks about individuation. The Gnostics talk about it as dark powers that must be revealed, illuminated by light. Doing so dissolves the powers of the darkness, and it lights up the threshold into which we can step into our transformative freedom. Ancient wisdom is not a dead text that you find buried in the deep from the past. It's still very much alive in the psyche. We've just renamed it for a modern world, but it is continuously undefeated. It's continuously universal. It never, ever stops being true. So which dark powers do you recognize happening around us right now, today? Things that are being kept in the shadow and need to be illuminated. And what would you like me to cover from those topics in a future episode? Because I love knowing that there's more out there that I haven't looked at yet. I hope to get to everything before the end of my life. I think I have a bit left over, but I'll do my best. Share your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see if I can pick some things to put into a future show. If today's show resonated and you'd like to see more, you can catch up on past episodes of my Wisdom Series playlist, but you can also now find me on Substack, where I talk about ancient wisdoms, decoding the noise, the fear and frenzy, and our spiritual survival. But at Substack, I go even deeper. I hope to see you there. Welcome to the new world. This is Ellie Dreams and Under. I love knowing you're here, and I'll see you in my dreams. Bye.